Hi everyone, and welcome to your next episode of Eye on Icon. It's Fezbox here, and I am with Iconographer, and we are excited yet again to be coming to you with all the latest Icon news that's been happening over the last week on our ecosystem. So, just want to call out that this podcast is now powered by Icon Plus, which is great to get us out there and get more, viewers to listen to our awesome content. And I just want to also say, the community reaction has been fantastic. We've been getting a lot of feedback. I've been getting a lot of personal messages, and it's really great to see that people have enjoyed what we've put out so far, and we really look forward to, bringing a lot more out there to the community. Iconographer, what are your thoughts? How you been?
I've been well, and yeah, it's been a pleasant surprise to see the amount of positive feedback we've gotten, and even some ideas for future episodes and things like that. And I sense that there's been a kind of filled a market need to a certain extent of people who just kind of want to check in, maybe on their drive to work or on one of their daily walks or whatever it is, and just kind of get caught up on what's going on with Icon. So I'm glad we're thus far been useful, and look forward to keeping that going moving forward.
Excellent. Yes. And so today, what we're going to do is we're going to run through basically all the news that's come out in the last week, or it could be a little bit older, but just a bit of a recap, and then deep dive into some of the topics and get our, views on what we think the potential is, just like last time, but more around some of the news that's come out during the week. So I'll kick things off. I believe it was this week or just early last week, we saw Reliant Node release a bit of a request. They're looking for beta testers for their new DApp that they're building, which is called Stash. Now, for anyone that doesn't know, what they're actually doing is creating an extension where you install it in Chrome, and when you're shopping on sites, various websites, it can be anything, it gives you a cashback option. Such things currently exist. If you look at something like Cashback, it's actually called Cashback. It's an extension, and then it's got thousands of different stores. It can be Amazon, any of the big web stores and stuff you have. They give 2% cash back if you just, and all you have to do is activate it, and it goes via their portal. And when you make a payment in a week or 2 week, you'll get money back in the form of, depending if it's 10%, 3%, 5%. Each website will have their own unique, what offer they're giving. Stash revolves around the same concept, except you install the extension and you'll probably get a huge list of retailers you get cash back from, and you get that cash back in ICX. And that's where the biggest difference is. So, for anyone who wants to keep acquiring ICX, this is a great avenue because you can still shop the way you want to, and you'll get cashback rewards in ICX. But what's really great about this project, the phase one is enabling creating this extension, and so you can get cash back via ICX. Stage two of this project, which I keep jumping to when I talk to the guys at Reliant Node, is enabling a debit card. So once you start acquiring cashback via ICX, then you can actually use this ICX through a debit card and spend your ICX in day to day whatever you do. So that component, that's how it'll all piece together. But the first step is building that extension, and it's clearly looks like they have got it built and are looking for beta testers. And since they put that request, I think within a couple of days they had to say thank you to everyone because an overwhelming response to it, and everyone wanted to get stuck in there and seeing how it would work, which is fantastic. And it's a unique piece of tech that fits into the Icon ecosystem. Any thoughts around that, Iconographer?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, it's another unique use case for the Icon network. It seems like every week there's kind of a new project that explores a different kind of way to utilize Icon and to add value to the network. And I think it'll be helpful to bring in newcomers who, I think if someone explains this to them, says, hey, you can get crypto cash back for shopping you're probably going to do anyway from retailers you're probably going to shop with no matter what, as a default, then I think people are going to jump at that idea. And as soon as you get one ICX, it's hard to stop. So hopefully it'll generate a lot of activity on the network, but also bring in a lot of new folks as well.
Yeah, and you know what? We know they make quality products. Everything they've made so far has been brilliant as well, including that great MyIcon wallet. I can't live without it. So good to see.
Absolutely. The next topic we want to go into, last week there was a PREP call. These happened somewhat regularly sometime last year, just to kind of it's kind of governance in action. It's a chance for people to see how PREPs are interacting, what they're discussing, kind of hot topics, ways to collaborate, ways to organize, way to make sure people aren't, two PREPs aren't necessarily working on the same project and duplicating efforts and things like that. They're hard to organize just based on the fact that, Icon is a worldwide project, meaning everyone's in different time zones and things like that. So it's hard to get 100% attendance, but this one, it looked like it had about 15 people, 15 teams, is based on what I could tell. And they had, so it's good to see them pop back up. It looks like they want to get the momentum going on these meetings a bit more often. Among some of the topics they talked about was the CPS fund, the contribution proposal system, which is coming up soon. Should be launched in sometime in February, I believe, was the most recent kind of timeline set out there. And they kicked around some potential grant ideas as far as what teams might be looking to do what, as well as some brainstorming on what potential marketing initiatives could be picked up by PREPs or funded by PREPs or done through the CPS. So, if you're interested in what potential marketing there is out there for Icon, I'd certainly recommend watching this. And if you're just generally kind of interested to hear and see what PREPs think about it and are focused on, I definitely encourage you to take some time out of your day to watch that video. Do you have any thoughts?
Oh, look, no, you covered it really well. I think probably one of the things to take note if you're new, this particular meetup was organised quite quickly. Real kudos, shout out to Corey there. However, moving forward, you're right. They want to do this regularly, and it'll be more planned out. So I feel that the content in these forums will just keep getting better and better. Especially with the CPS rollout about to happen, we should see a lot more info come out through these forums. So yeah, no.
Absolutely. Yeah, and yeah, I meant to shout out Corey Costa there, who's with Icon Meadows PREP. He's been probably one of the more well-known community members and worked to spearhead this. So good kudos to him. Next topic is there was a article that kind of came out of nowhere, at least from my perspective. It was co-authored by Min Kim, who's obviously kind of seen as the Icon founder or one of the founders, as well as Ricky Dodds, who's another high up in the Icon leadership. And it was co-written in a publication called Brave New Coin, and it basically pointed out the overall topic was security tokens. And this is a topic I wrote about for the Rise on Wire, our newsletter, which goes out every Friday morning. What they talked about was how back in 2018 there's an idea called security tokens, which are basically a way to have assets, traditional assets, but kind of chopped up in a way where people can own a fraction of, say, a piece of real estate or a piece of art or something like that. They were kind of, in 2018, they hit a high watermark. They were kind of hyped up. Everyone got really excited about them. Everyone saw them kind of coming as a wave. There was a lot of momentum behind them. And all of a sudden, the people who were actually trying to get involved, Min had mentioned that they had looked at trying to start a security token fund of some sort. What they realized was that the legal and regulatory costs of doing so were pretty significant still, and the demand for the actual product was relatively low. So it just didn't make a whole lot of business sense. But over the last couple of years, the infrastructure has been built up, as well as the regulatory climate's gotten friendlier. So what that means is they're getting hyped up to take another run at security tokens. It sounds like they got a lot of stuff brewing in 2021. And this is a topic, again, that I wrote about for The Wire, and I'll spend some time talking about a little bit later in this episode. But I want to isolate that and kind of point that out and encourage you all to read that and kind of get excited about security tokens.
Yep. One of my favorite lines is "out of nowhere," seemingly out of nowhere. I love that line. I get
Yeah, well, I'm trying to remember the last time I saw an article in kind of a traditional media publication of sorts, written by Min, and this one not only by Min but by Ricky as well. So it was a little bit unusual, and it seems like they took a lot of time and effort. And I kind of saw it as if you're running a PR campaign, this is kind of be the first step of laying the groundwork to kind of roll out something that might be big, kind of either in the coming weeks or months, or at least sometime this
Hmm.
year.
He's mentioned a couple of times real estate, leveraging off this. This is of this article and in an interview recently, I heard him say, venturing into real estate, which is quite interesting. Because there's a few things that exist on Ethereum at the moment, Realty being one of them. It's not set up as an STO, but it's set up following the right regulations, and it's fractional ownership in property. So it'll be very interesting. I mean, the Realty platform was designed, their goal was to pay rent daily. So you buy a fraction of the property, you get, 10% whatever the rental income is, and it gets paid to you daily. However, that shifted quite quickly due to gas fees on Ethereum, and they pay it out weekly now. But it's proven extremely popular. Properties sell out now on that platform in under 10 minutes from getting listed. Majority of the properties are American properties that are sold. So, yeah, I'm very excited to see what they have in the works around this.
Yeah, there's been a few breadcrumbs thus far. The mention you just alluded to. There's also, Min retweeted a news story about a NFL football player who was using a lot of his money to buy equity and land and things like that. And he kind of alluded to, buying land is coming soon to Icon in 2021, which again kind of came out of nowhere, and it was a little bit vague and cryptic. But with this newest article, and some of the research I did that I'll go into a little bit later, I think it's becoming a lot clearer what they kind of have in mind. So I'm excited to talk about that a little bit later in the podcast.
Excellent. So the next topic, and I'm literally going to leave this as a bit of a sentence. There is a new video out by Mineable. If you haven't followed his content, he makes quite entertaining and great videos for the ecosystem. I recall in 2017 I stumbled across one of the videos and I got excited about Icon. So if you haven't been following him or haven't heard of him, we'll have in the show notes all the links put in there. So do definitely check out this video. The next one we want to talk through is Unifi and listing Tap. We have Tap available now on two platforms. This is great.
Yeah. So for those who don't know, Tap is the prime token of the Icon Bet platform, which is the one and only casino application, or I guess decentralized application on Icon. Tap entitles you as an opportunity to you technically owning Tap technically makes you a part owner of the casino. And it also, more importantly to some, pays daily dividends based on the profit that the casino makes every day. So it's a very popular token. It's the most popular token other than ICX on the ecosystem. Up for a while now, I want to say for about a year or so, it was possible to trade Tap using an application called Icon Swap, which basically meant, if you wanted to sell a certain amount of Tap, you could say, okay, I want to sell 1,000 Tap for whatever price of ICX you felt was fair. Meanwhile, if you wanted to go shop, you could go look at all the swaps that have been posted and pick the one that you felt had the most competitive price for what you were willing to pay. Unfortunately, they had to shut that down due to some kind of regulatory concerns that the team had. So for a little bit, there was a bit of a shortage in terms of if you wanted to buy or sell Tap, there were a whole lot of options. Fortunately, about perfect timing, Icon Pool came along, which is automated market maker, which works kind of like a decentralized exchange, but it doesn't. There's nobody holding your coins or anything like that. You're interacting directly with the protocol in order to swap your tokens. So Tap is there, but also for a while, Unifi with their uTrade platform had launched on Icon toward the end of last year. Again, allows you to trade Icon for the two tokens it had were Seed and Up, which are both from the Unifi kind of universe. And there was some demand for those, but everyone was kind of anticipating Tap getting on there for a chance to trade that. And fortunately, just a couple days ago, it did launch on there. So now if you want to buy or sell Tap, you can do so by going to icon.unifiprotocol.com. And again, we'll have a link to that in the notes. The potentially downside is that while, if you want to be a liquidity provider on uTrade, meaning that you deposit an equal amount of ICX and Tap in order to earn rewards for providing that liquidity, you are not able to earn the dividends that you would receive on that Tap. Fortunately, you do receive other rewards by doing that, but some people might not be as motivated to do that because they're not getting those dividends. But it's my understanding that the IconBet team is working with the Unifi team in order to make sure that the dividends are paid out in some way, shape, or form. So I think when that happens, there'll be a lot more people rushing to provide liquidity there, which means that if you're buying and selling TAP, you're not going to move the price a whole lot if you have a large purchase, which just makes that more and more valuable as a way to trade.
Look, I think the more options, the better. The Unifi platform is. It looks a little nicer. Icon Pool is still in the works. I noticed on the forum they've submitted for another grant to upgrade the UI and do various other things to the site, which is great. No one site's going to rule it all, so it's great to have multiple options. And I know from the community just what you called out regarding TAP. The idea of having TAP is getting those dividends off the casino, paid out in ICX. So this is the first question everyone goes, well, why should we provide liquidity if we're foregoing the dividends? So it's great to see the IconBet team working on this proactively to resolve it. In some spaces that just doesn't happen, so that's a real win there. And on uTrade, you got that the up token, and if you're not across it, I think it is just understanding. We could spend an entire episode just talking about it, but it's understanding the potential of what that, by acquiring some of that, how much upside there is to it as the protocol keeps growing. And if we get to a system like Uniswap that has, generates so many millions and billions a month in trading, what that could mean for people who acquire the up token, which is basically fees the protocol generates. So I won't spend, like I said, it could be a whole episode just talking about that token, but for every risk, there's a reward. There's always risks. There's variations to those rewards. So it's something to keep an eye on and do a bit more research on.
Yeah, and if I because it is a little bit tricky to kind of figure out the tokenomics of up, and also just kind of what Unifi is and what its vision is. I took some time to write a lengthy article kind of explaining that and explaining up, and hopefully by the time you walk away from reading it, you have a pretty good understanding of why up might not be a bad token to hold over the long term. So we'll include that in the notes as well for those who want to spend some time reading through that. I think a lot of people have found it helpful over the last couple of months is trying to learn about this new protocol that's kind of come on board to Icon.
Yes, it is a rabbit hole, even and there's layers to it. But you know what? Once you start, and your article was great. I read it, went into the forums, came back and reread it, and that gave me my understanding of what they've designed and how the ecosystem works. So it was great. Next we have the seed swap is now live. Iconographer.
Yes. So kind of spinning off a little bit from Unifi, Sesame Seed is I won't say separate, but it's certainly not the same as Unifi. They kind of operate adjacently, and they kind of have a similar team working on both, but they kind of identify themselves as separate projects as well. But there is some overlap there. So if you're not familiar with Seed, Seed launched on Icon late last year. I want to say it might have been November. And what it is it's a pretty unique idea. And Seed as a project is essentially a token and project that specializes in staking on multiple blockchains all at once. So on Icon, there's a Sesame Seed node running. On the Tron network, there's currently a Sesame Seed node running. On Harmony, there's currently a Sesame Seed running, and a couple others as well. So, in most staking platforms, what happens is the user stakes their tokens with a node. The node receives rewards and then passes back some of those rewards to the staker. What Sesame Seed does is all the rewards they earn, they put into a giant pool from each blockchain, and at the same time they pay their stakers in Seed, the Seed token. And owning a Seed token allows you to redeem a portion of that big pot of the other tokens. So right now, if you own one Seed, and Seed exists on all these different blockchains. So if you own one Seed, whether it's on Icon, whether it's on Tron, whether it's on Harmony, whether it's on Ontology, or one of the other chains they're currently operating on, it allows you to redeem that one Seed for a fraction of each of those tokens that are held in the basket. So right now, all they the value of all of them adds up to, I think, the market rate or the redeem rate somewhere between 3.5 and 4 cents, depending on kind of how the alt market's doing at a given time. So on Icon, it's nice because you can stake with Sesame Seed. You still earn at the end of the day your rewards that Icon would provide you just for voting, but at the same time you earn a bonus in the fact that you'll earn seed as well. The issue has been, as I said, there's one seed token, but it technically exists on all these different blockchains. So you could have seed on Tron and seed on Icon, but there wasn't a way for you to move your seed from Icon to Tron. Uh, we had been anticipating for this for a while, for a few weeks. They were working on building it and implementing it, and they finally have. It's called the seed swap, essentially, and via the Sprout platform, and it allows you to take your seed. Say you have some seed on Tron, you can just put it through Sprout and then have it pop out and have it be in your Icon wallet. So it's a way to kind of create a cross-chain ability to trade different tokens. And where this comes especially relevant is the fact that, again, circling back to uTrade, which is the protocol that Unifi has, say there's a situation where you want to trade ICX for one of the tokens that's on Tron's blockchain. Now, if you want to do that right now, it's really hard. It's unlikely that there's any pairs of Icon and that Tron token on any exchange, but because there's probably not a whole lot of demand for it. What Unifi allows you to do is basically say, okay, I have Icon, I'm going to trade it for seed. I'm going to move my Icon seed over to Tron, and then I'm going to trade my Tron seed for that whatever Tron token that I want. So it still requires a couple steps. They're actually working on creating a backend system where you don't even have to worry about manually trading the seed. You can do it, and it kind of happens automatically. I don't know what the timeline is on that, but that's something that they're working on that'll make it even easier to do and create less friction. But as you can see, we're slowly opening doors to create interoperability and cross-chain payments and other things like that into other blockchains. We'll talk a little bit about Orbit Bridge later as well, which does something similar to that. But it's exciting to kind of see this vision start to play out. Unifi's obviously helped kind of bring this on as far as this part of it's concerned. And over time, they're going to add more and more chains to the system. They're going to add, their hope, I think the number that I've seen kicked around is 70 to 80 chains. So that benefits you as an iconist, not only because it's easy for you to now trade Icon for tokens on all these chains, but also at the same time, as they stake with these tokens and these blockchains, more and more of those tokens are getting thrown into the pool, which means each of the seed tokens that you own is getting more and more valuable over time because you can redeem it for more and more of these other blockchains. So holding seed's nice because it basically gives you, it's almost like holding an index fund in the sense that it gives you exposure to multiple altcoins. And that list is only going to grow over time. So it's another way to just kind of get overall exposure to the crypto market. And if you don't feel like kind of picking winners and choosers, buying seed is certainly not a bad way to go.
What a great summary, and this is just it. Seed gives you exposure to various blockchains, and it's not just what a market speculation. There's the underlying token of each blockchain actually backs seed up. So, it's kind of foolproof there unless something happens to that particular blockchain. But that again, it's hedging bets against with all the ecosystems. So, and the last part I really like because originally Seed was backed by Tron. Obviously, as they expanded into various ecosystems, more tokens got added. So by being an early supporter and an early holder, and that's what Seed is designed basically to hold, you reap the rewards of them onboarding new blockchain ecosystems. So right now, the latest one, even though Icon was news, Unifi actually is the latest one. So given that Seed, it was a Seed team and Unifi was founded and they built something from that as a reward. They have incorporated the Unifi token into the Seed basket, which is fantastic. And who knows? Hopefully, Ether's next. Fingers crossed. I would love to see a redeem. Ether added to the redeem value because since it's moving to proof of stake, that could be a big one. And the other thing was you touched on Sprout. Like this is one of the other parts that happened with me. I tend to have gotten very confused once started trying to break down the seed, because of the layers and etc. But one particular call out is Sprout is their homegrown wallet. Essentially, you create it and it opens up via using Sprout. It will open up, you create a wallet and it creates a wallet for all the chains that it currently supports. And through that, you can then swap your seed around to any blockchain that is currently supported. And the news here is Icon now has been added. So everyone who's been getting that seed, you can actually go, you could swap it to another chain, or you could just redeem it for its underlying value and get the various chains tokens that it currently backs. So um, I felt this was one of those out of nowhere sentences, Iconographer, It kind of just came up in my Twitter feed and I glanced at it and I didn't think too much of it, kept moving. Then a couple of days later, I thought, hang on a second, did I just see that? Is it officially live? Let me go back here.
Yeah, and that, another benefit of seed, and I think it's a little less obvious necessarily, but from my perspective, now that because I hold some because I was interested in the project, and so I staked some with Sesame Seed, and I've also kind of purchased some on the open market. Every time a new token gets added to that peg, just by owning seed, you now have a direct interest in the success of that project, and it makes you a little more interested in that project and things like that. So as a someone who's just interested in crypto in general, it's interesting from that standpoint because it gets me, it plugs me into different projects and I get a better sense of what's going on. The inverse effect of that too is that when Icon got added, I noticed a large number of people who, now because they held seed as well, they were now invested in Icon, even though they never bought Icon itself, and now they're rooting for the project. They're indirectly invested in the project, and so it was a way to kind of bring in a new wave of people to Icon who maybe had never heard of the project. And now I see them, these same people who were initially just asking really basic questions. Now I see them, a lot more dedicated in some of the Telegram rooms. I see them active on Twitter and things like that. So it was a nice way to help kind of grow the community, and it ties all these projects together in a really harmonious way. That's pretty cool to see, and it'll be fun to watch it grow over the future.
Exactly. I mean, it's great to see some of the guys that I was going and hounding for with questions to understand what the protocol's about. They're all of a sudden on all our Icon various protocol Telegram chats asking similar questions. It was just a great merger of chains. So yeah, yeah.
Yeah, then they start asking what tap is and why it's there, and all of a sudden they're in the Icon Bet room, and then now they're playing on Icon Bet. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
a nice pipeline.
Yeah, agree. Okay, so the next one was the interview Icon Plus had with Scott and with Orbit Bridge, which was great to see. It was for me. Look, the interview was great. A lot of time was spent initially just talking, giving an overview about Orbit Bridge, which I have in the last podcast talked about. But essentially, it is connecting various blockchain ecosystems. Currently, Ethereum, I think Kava, Icon. So you can take an asset on Ethereum like IUSDC and migrate it across to Icon. So it's USDC obviously on Ethereum, and when it comes across to Icon, it's IUSDC, and then uh, you can then use IUSDC on Icon for whatever you need. Now, what that may be at the moment is providing liquidity, and this leads me into the next bit, is Icon Icon Pool is about to list. You'll probably see IUSDC, so IUSDC and ICX. So soon you'll be able to move your ICX in a decentralized way into USDC, Icon's version, IUSDC, and then potentially you could then take that back to Ethereum and go and purchase or do whatever you want with USDC on Ethereum. So that's the kind of interoperability that's coming that Orbit Bridge brings to the Icon ecosystem. At the moment, it's IUSDC. However, once we have Balance launched and we have those ICD, Icon dollars, you'd be able to move Icon ICD into IUSDC and then move it off onto Ethereum if you want, or vice versa, So that bridge enables that cross-chain interaction and taking part in various ecosystems. So it is great. What I really love about it as well is, Scott's in there. It's great to see that the foundation is aware of what opportunity it brings and are actively getting behind migrating some of the liquidity. I have created a tutorial around this, but one of the key callouts in the interview is it's probably not designed for individual users to migrate $50 from Ethereum over to Icon because you're spending $25 of that in fees. So the goal initially is to have larger chunks migrated across, and then you can start taking part in the DeFi of that chain's ecosystem with the Ethereum assets on board now. So that was a great little call out in the interview. Then one of the other parts, a lot of time was spent as well talking about balance, which was really good. What are your thoughts, Iconographer?
Yeah, it's just another step toward interoperability, cross chain, all that other good stuff. What the true interoperability is going to come from Icon 2.0, which is supposed to release later this year, and the Bancor Transfer Protocol with the BTP that you've probably been hearing about, that will allow direct smart contract to smart contract interaction across chains. That's the true meat of the project. That being said, though, creating these initial steps towards being able to utilize tokens on other chains onto the Icon network, either via Unifi or via Bridge, it's giving people a nice preview of potentially what's to come, and it's only creating more tools for Iconis as well. Kind of like what you mentioned, having IUSDC on Icon Pool. Say you're someone who is trading ICX for whatever reason. You just notice the price spikes up, and then you're worried it's going to go down a little bit, as it's kind of been doing these last couple of weeks. Rather than having to send it off to an exchange, on the third party centralized exchange, you can instead just quickly trade it for, the IUSDC on Icon Pool. You never have to leave the Icon network. The USDC stays in your Icon wallet, and so it's a great way to kind of just operate within the network itself without having to send your tokens away or anything like that. So it's a small little benefit, but it's that type of thing that we're going to get more and more of. Creates greater flexibility, and it'll ultimately create more transactions and more demand for the ICX token, ideally.
And one of the things that I loved what Benny really called out. There were two things there that really stood out. The idea was it wasn't about grabbing Ethereum's users in DeFi currently. The goal that they've set out is they want to get a whole new set of users on board, and with balance and then OMM and bridge, it will enable that, because you can get the people who necessarily find the idea of having your keys, that's very big in crypto, not your keys, not your funds. But there, on the flip side, a lot of users just don't want that kind of stress in their lives or that kind of management. They want a simple way. If they have from A to B and they get access to these great interest rates, etc., and in a very risk-free environment, they would jump on that rather than having full control and managing every minute detail. So Benny spends a bit of time not Benny Scott spends a bit of time talking about that, which is great. And one of the things that comes up through the interview is the guy who's lost his password, or there's a couple of articles every time crypto sees a bit of a boom. A guy's lost his USB in the rubbish, forgotten his password, and there's one more, the double spend Bitcoin thing that seems to be the rotational FUD that comes through. But they talk about that, and Scott mentions that, do you know who the first people came to him with that article was? It was his parents. And it's hilarious because my parents did the same thing. So, the way he tackled that and explained that, it was great because it's so relevant and it's so true. So if you take away that risk and that aspect of it and make it really simple and user friendly, we have the potential to onboard a whole new batch of users. So it was it's exciting to see what's going to unfold when these protocols launch.
Absolutely. So, I think now we've kind of covered all the news, and we want to take a time to kind of dig a little deeper into a more substantive subject, and that is, again, as I alluded to, I spent some time writing about it for the Rhizome Wire, which is the weekly newsletter that I help write for the Rhizome P-Rep team that I'm a part of. We'll have a link to subscribe to that if you're not already subscribed to it. A lot of interest in this topic and in this newsletter specifically thus far, and it's basically on the topic of security tokens. So, I think there's some familiarity with security tokens in the crypto world, but obviously not anywhere near 100%. As I kind of alluded to, we got a little bit of a snippet of this when Min made that tweet about equity deals only buy land coming to Icon in 2021. I kind of looked at that and said, well, what the heck does that mean? And then as we talked about, that article came out, kind of laying the groundwork for a narrative about STOs. And so I kind of said, all right, let's try to figure out what Icon really has brewing here. Let's kind of look back and see, what kind of steps they've taken over the last few months, what kind of partnerships they might have set up, what kind of steps they might have taken to kind of turn this into a real thing in 2021. So first, let's quickly talk about what security tokens are. As we've kind of touched upon, if I want to go out and I want to buy real estate, I need, depending on where you live, depending on what country you're in, let's just say, you're probably needing at least six figures to do that. Now, not everyone has six figures. Not everyone has six figures ready available to go buy land with. But a lot of people do want to have exposure to real estate for a lot of reasons, because it's an appreciating asset, and it usually provides an income stream of some sort. And so what security tokens offer is basically a digitized version of a fractional share of ownership in a given real world asset. So whether that's, as I said, real estate, maybe it's a really expensive piece of fine art. Maybe it's a Picasso painting that would normally cost $2 million, and you don't have $2 million, but you're really, really into art, and you're willing to own maybe 1/2000th of the piece with 1,999 other people. You have that possibility as well. So you can kind of play this forward and see that assets of that magnitude and that size, there's not a very liquid market for them, just because, again, not everyone's walking around with that much money. It's a lot of legal paperwork to transfer a property from one person to another. There's varying degrees of valuations. It's hard to always agree on a set price for a given asset, things like that. But if you have 1,000 tokens tied to a given property that are trading on an open market, it's a lot easier to generate a transaction. It's a lot easier to trade them. It's almost like trading ICX on an exchange. Instead of trading ICX, though, you're trading 123 Main Street, and you're trading your 1/100th of a share for it. So you can see why that would be a really interesting thing, especially if you play it out over the future, where everyone's given access to all these assets and financial tools that they might not have had access to, just based on limitations provided by the lack of technology surrounding it. So this is, obviously it's a really captivating subject. It was something that a lot of crypto funds and crypto projects were interested in. There was a lot of hype kind of built up and growing around it back in 2018. As Min pointed out, Icon looked into starting a fund of some sort to give exposure to these things, and then they realized that the regulatory environment just wasn't quite there yet. And also, the other part of it is that based on the way the regulations were set up around securities, particularly, that in order, there were people they could sell to based on the regulations. The problem is the people they could sell to had to be accredited investors, and usually accredited investors, they have enough money where they already have access to all these assets to begin with. So there wasn't really demand there based on the limitations that those regulations were putting into place. But fast forward a couple of years later, people are understanding how the digital economy works better. Regulations are opening up a little bit. DeFi has paved the way for a lot of different interesting and unique kind of ideas and ways to get more creative with financial tools and assets. And it's also shown regulators that, hey, this could be potentially the wave of the future, and we need to start opening these things up. So we have the security token on one hand, which is basically a security. On the other hand, we have ICOs. So I want to do a comparison just for some context purpose. A security token it's basically security, right? So it gives you actual legal ownership of the underlying asset, potentially gives you access to share in profits, and it gives you access to potential dividend if it's set up that way. So meanwhile, an ICO, what it is basically it's a contribution to a project. In return for that contribution, you are given a utility token. The utility token has value, or presumably has value, because the people who have it, or the people who are speculating on it, believe that at some point in time it will be in demand, meaning that people will want it because they need it to use the protocol, which means that the price will go up. But at the end of the day, it doesn't confer, you don't own part of a company. You don't own really part of a network. You're not really entitled to any profits or anything necessarily like that. So while a lot of people who did buy tokens see themselves as investors, from a legal standpoint, that's really not the case at all. So, while ICOs promise ultimately a product, STOs potentially promise a profit. Now, again, a promise isn't a guarantee, but that's ultimately what the agreement kind of is when you purchase these assets, usually an implied agreement. So over time, so you can understand why an STO would be better than ICO, because you have a real legal claim to an underlying asset that generates revenue, and at the very least can be sold for its underlying value. So as I've kind of indicated, the regulations have eased up, made it a bit more of a possible space. And sometime last year, I can't remember the exact time, I want to say it might have been over the summer, there was an announcement that Icon had reached a deal with a company called LCX, which I know is similar to ICX, so it's just kind of funny how that worked out. Which they've described themselves as trying to become the Coinbase or Kraken of the security token offering space, right? So Coinbase is seen kind of as the marquee, usually great infrastructure, reliable. It's kind of where institutions go to in order to purchase crypto. It's very accessible, very easy to use for the most part. LCX, they're based in Liechtenstein, which is in Europe for those that don't know. And Liechtenstein actually passed some of the more progressive and permissive regulations when it came to security tokens and kind of crypto in general I believe it was last year, which basically paved the way for LCX, this company, to get this approval to basically offer all these services based around both crypto but also security tokens as well. So they have regulatory approval to issue security tokens, to hold security tokens, and to allow the trading of security tokens. And they, more importantly, it doesn't matter what country the underlying project or company or whatever it is based in. So whether it's South Korea, where Icon's based, or the United States or any other country, utilizing if they want to launch a security token because they have say they're a small business who wants to offer shares in their company. Say it's a company that has real estate assets that wants to launch them as securities, whatever it might be. My understanding is they can go through LCX to do this because LCX has the regulatory approval to do this. As part of that announcement of the partnership, LCX did say and did cite the Icon interoperability and cross blockchain payments as key reasons why they partnered with them. I should also note that Icon, other than Chainlink, is the only true blockchain project that LCX has partnered with, which indicates to me that they could be utilizing Icon's actual underlying infrastructure or public chain as part of their kind of some of the activities they do with security tokens. And I point this out because, again, last year, Icon released an announcement, and it kind of went under the radar for the most part, basically saying they had built on the public chain a standard for security tokens. And what this means is, we know we have a standard for the IRC2 tokens. So, when we talk about seed, when we talk about tap, those are all IRC tokens that Icon had built the infrastructure to allow people to create. They've also done something similar with NFT tokens, so non-fungible tokens. So again, there's, Craft is working on a thing that allows people to launch NFTs utilizing the standard that Icon has created. They also created, and one other way, to create a security token standard, which allows people to launch security tokens on the Icon network, including attaching relevant regulatory or legal documents to those security tokens so that it really showed that they were backed by whichever underlying asset it is that the security token is launching on. So, you have these things coming together. Icon's gearing itself up by creating the infrastructure on their end with the security token. And now they have a partner of a system that has the infrastructure ability to launch tokens and to trade them and to be kind of open to the world. And on the other side of things, you got to remember, launching securities is difficult, and there's one of the key regulations behind it is that they want to have KYC, the know your customer, so that when they see who you're selling these initial securities to, that they're that they can track and kind of know who it is that's actually buying these things, and they're not being used to fund illicit activities or whatever the any of the other reasons that there's KYC involved. You got to remember that Icon is a they have all these partnerships with all of these financial institutions in Korea. Like all sorts of banks, all sorts of asset managers, all sorts of other things. The number of times I saw the word securities in a description of one of these companies is pretty high. And so, you take that into account, the number of people who are interested just inherently in securities. You take the fact that Icon's public chain has a application that is currently offers decentralized identification, which could theoretically really, you know, put a check through the checkbox of the KYC process, as well as the partnership with this infrastructure for launching security tokens and trading security tokens. You can really potentially, this is an ambitious vision, but you could theoretically see a system where you have all these banks who all of a sudden have all these assets, and they say, oh, we want to get more exposure to these assets. We want to sell them. We want to get them out in the world. We can go through Icon. We can use their decentralized identification, and this is all on the public chain. We can use their decentralized identification system to do KYC, and then we can launch them, and we have this infrastructure where we can get immediate access to secondary markets because LCX offers a trading platform, or whatever else it might be. So let's project into the future. Everyone involved in the MyID Alliance who has financial backing, they collectively probably have trillions of assets under management. Say they're all just launching security tokens left and right, whatever real estate they have, whatever businesses they're taking public, whatever else it might be. All this is happening on Icon. Meanwhile, because Icon's interoperable, people can take their security tokens that they purchased on Icon from, Shinhan Bank in Korea, and they can take those and move them to a DeFi platform, maybe on Ethereum. They can transfer them around. They can move them around. All this adds tremendous value to the Icon network, and it really makes it a destination. So, the thing that Min most overtly alluded to was the fact that they want to launch, and he alluded to this in that article I've been talking about. They want to launch a real estate security token sometime in 2021, and I think that's the lowest hanging fruit because I think it's the thing that people can most easily understand what it is they're buying. It's something that there's a lot of demand for. I think a lot of people on the natural want to get into real estate. There's just a lot of hurdles to doing it. So I kind of see it, I don't want to say as a test case, because it's going to be more than a test, but it is a chance to really enter that STO market and really see how, if there's something there where there's a lot of demand and if it's something that could be successful. So, and I think if that works well, we could really start to see that take off. And it's just another kind of part of the Icon world that could really, really pick up a lot of steam over the coming months and years. And it's one that, most iconists probably weren't paying much attention to, but it could have pretty significant potential for the Icon ecosystem.
So we got STOs, we got DeFi, we got the NFT market, we've got gaming, we've got DID and the whole potential ecosystem that brings. How many partners are we on at the moment, Iconographer?
Uh, it's close to 100. I
Yeah.
can't remember if it's over 100 yet or not. It,
Uh,
it seemed, it had been changing so often for a while, and I think, it's kind of the one thing everyone paid attention to. But now
mm,
with everything else going on, it's kind of taken a bit of a back burner as far as the number of total partners. But it's not an insignificant number, that's for sure.
not at all. And just it goes in hand with the example you gave. Like the more partners, once everything's up and running, it gives them the opportunity to get bigger exposure to an international or audience in general. So there's quite a lot. I guess what I'm trying to call out is the just on the chain itself, the amount of ecosystems that are emerging and either launched or just about to launch. So I think Min, when he sent out a post in New Year's 2021 as icons, it really is. It's shaping up to be quite an impactful year for the icon ecosystem, with everything that's about to launch through it.
And one of the questions that occasionally pops up when we kind of dive into one of these topics, people either on Telegram or Twitter or Reddit or whatever, they'll just kind of say, Yeah, well, how much will this impact price, or how much will this impact the network, or whatever else might be? And it's a hard question to answer because two reasons. A, obviously Ethereum's done well over the long term, and I'd ask people to say, okay, when you think of why is Ethereum so expensive? What's the one thing that did that? They can't give an answer because it's a combination of dozens of things, whether it's DeFi, whether it's CryptoKitties, whether it's the ICO boom, whether it's a number of other projects and platforms and applications that Ether has. There's not one thing that's totally changed the game. It's all a combined effect of all these different things, and all these all these different parallel paths that are being built upon, and have connections with one another and all that other stuff. And at the end of the day, it's all about the value of the network. Why are people getting driven to your network? From Icon standpoint, from the interoperability standpoint, it's if, as each new company or entity is onboarded, all of a sudden the network gets slightly more valuable because every other company who's looking at it says, oh, I get access to that company and this hospital and this insurance company and whatever it else might be. Meanwhile, when it comes to security tokens, there's going to be a whole other layer of people who say, oh wow, I really, what they have going on, it's so easy. There's all these banks that they're working with, and I don't even have to, I don't have to turn in any paperwork or anything like that. My ID's already on my phone. It can handle the KYC process. I really want to get involved in this. They're selling off this real estate, or they're selling off this asset, or whatever else it is. And so again, there's not any one single thing that's going to instantly, flip a switch and all of a sudden Icon's this game-changing product and platform overnight. It's all a gradual effect. It's all, each one is kind of a drop in the bucket. But once you add them all up, you see what, assuming they all get played out in the way that we hope they will, and in the way they all plan to, it's going to be a really, really significantly valuable platform in the same way that Ethereum was, where with so much going on, it's hard not to have to buy Ether to try out something at some point in time.
Mm.
It'll be the same way where you're going to need ICX just to do something, and as long as something needs ICX in order to run on the Icon network, then it's going to create increased demand for the token. And so I think that's what people need to kind of remember at the end of the day is does this make Icon more of a destination or not? And if it does, and it usually does, then that's going to be good for the network, and that's going to be good for the token price over the long term.
Yeah. Look, just even right now, just thinking off the top of my head, balanced launch, you lock in your ICX, take out, $200 ICD. You're still getting your staked rewards, balanced reward token. You take that ICD and you see, oh, that's great. There's some real estate, fractional real estate available on Icon. Let me purchase that. That's going to generate me 10% interest in payments from rent or whatever that particular property is giving you. That itself is you are taking your existing Icon ICX bag and you're putting it to work for you, not just in staking. You're able to acquire more from it, so your
Well,
asset,
and then
it's yeah.
you can carry that forward too and say, okay, well now I've got a share of this piece of real estate, and its value, the token price is trading at $200 right now.
Hmm.
Let me take that asset that I now own. I'm going to put that back into balanced, and I'm going to borrow that against that too with that collateral I just added. So again, you've now gone from owning ICX to owning ICX and this asset, and you're borrowing more dollars, which you can do other things with. So it's just a self kind of, and that's just one person doing that activity. So you start adding all these different pieces together, and all these, creating this strong web of all these different transactions, and there's a lot of value not only for the network but for each individual using it as well.
Look, the only thing standing in the way at the moment is time. I want to do all this now.
Exactly.
Great, great. Okay, I think look, that any final words, Iconographer, you want to talk through? I feel we've covered a
No,
lot.
I think I obviously spent a lot of time on that. I'm excited to kind of, it's just another. I almost have to create a list of different topics I have to kind of check back in and just kind of see, what the latest development might kind of be. It used to be, back a year or two ago, it was kind of every couple of weeks we get some kind of random bit of news, and it
Mm.
usually wasn't a whole lot to digest, but it was at least forward momentum, and it got people somewhat excited. But we're going to run into a problem soon where there's almost going to be too much news, and each little segment of the ecosystem is going to be generating a significant amount of activity and a significant amount of news, and it's going to be basically impossible for the everyday iconist to track it all. So that just means the size and magnitude of the network has only gotten big, and so it might be a little tricky to track it. But hey, you and I will certainly try to help everyone, right?
Exactly what I was going to say. That's why you know tune into Ion Icon and get all the latest and greatest. So yeah, great. No, look, and it is slowly starting to get that way, and I'm really looking forward to when it is that way. That is a sign of a booming ecosystem. So um, uh, can't wait for that to happen. Look, from my end, I think yes, it was great. I'm glad we spent a bit of time on the STO space. It is a point of focus, and it creates opportunities. Again, I keep saying this that we haven't thought of yet, but just with Icon, it's unique because of the partners that are on board. Once they have the tools in place and it is, following regulation, then they're going to venture in, and that's when they'll just all come at it with their own unique, takes on what they want to bring to the market. So that's very exciting. Um, as always, we love this is the second podcast in, having a ball doing it. Really, really love seeing the community react to it. If you're enjoying the content, do subscribe. We are now on various platforms: YouTube, Odyssey, Spotify, Anchor, Google Podcasts. And the only one left, there's three more we're trying to get on, and one of them is Apple iTunes, but I'm expecting that to happen any day now, so you'll be able to listen to this podcast on there. So if it whichever platform you're listening to it, give it a like, give it a subscribe. Let's share this around and keep growing it. And thank you to everyone who has taken the time to listen and actually sent messages of feedback to us. It's been fantastic. Iconographer,
Yep, keep it coming, guys. We're having a lot of fun and looking forward to the next episode.
excellent. Thanks everyone for listening. Until next time.